My name is Mariella, and I am a mermaid. I live in a beautiful underwater kingdom with my family. My father is the king, and he says we must never go to the surface where the humans live. He says it is dangerous, but I have always been curious. One day, I decided to swim to the surface. The water was calm, and I could feel the sun warming my face when I came up. The world above was so bright and full of strange and beautiful things. I saw big boats floating on the water and a village on the land. I swam closer to the shore to see everything better. The trees were tall and green, and I could hear voices. They sounded happy, but I could not understand their words. I was so excited that I forgot to pay attention to where I was going. After a while, I realized I was lost. I didn't know how to find my way back to my home. I started to feel scared. The water around me was quiet, and I didn't recognize anything. Then I saw a large pot near the shore. It was half filled with water, and it looked like a safe place to rest. I jumped inside, hoping I could hide there until I figured out what to do. I didn't know that someone would find me. A human woman came to fetch the pot. She picked it up and carried it away. I stayed very quiet, hoping she wouldn't see me. She brought the pot to her house and set it down. After a while, a boy came to look inside the pot. He had brown eyes and a kind face. When he saw me, his mouth opened in surprise. "Who are you?" he asked. "I'm a mermaid," I said softly. "Please don't be afraid. I need your help." He stared at me, unsure if he should believe me. "You're a mermaid?" "Yes," I said. "I swam too far and got lost. Please, can you take me back to the water before anyone finds me?" The boy looked worried. "If my mother sees you, she might get rid of you." I was so scared when he said that. "Then please hide me. I promise I will repay you." He thought for a moment and then said, "Okay, but you have to promise to help me too. I want to leave this village and see the world. Can you help me with that?" "I promise," I said. He found a small bottle and filled it with water. Then he helped me climb inside and closed it tightly. He hid the bottle under his bed, and I stayed very still. When his mother came into the room, I could hear her talking to him. "What are you hiding, Daniel?" she asked. "Nothing," he said quickly. She looked at him for a moment but didn't say anything more. When she left, I felt relieved. That night, Daniel whispered to me, "I'll take you back to the river tomorrow, but you have to keep your promise." "I will," I said. "Thank you for saving me." But I didn't know that this was only the beginning of my troubles. Inside the bottle, I waited quietly. The water around me was cool and calm, though the space was tight. Daniel had promised to help me, and I trusted him. But suddenly, the door opened, and a small girl peeked into the room. She was young, maybe no older than 7 or 8, with big, curious eyes and a mischievous smile. I could see her looking at Daniel, and I felt the water tremble around me. Something told me this child was not going to leave easily. "Daniel," she said, her voice high and sharp. "What are you hiding?" "Nothing," Daniel said quickly. He turned and stood in front of the table where my bottle rested. I pressed myself against the glass, hoping she wouldn't notice me. But the girl didn't believe him. "You're lying," she said, crossing her arms. "I can tell." "What's on the table?" "It's just a bottle of water," Daniel said, his voice shaky. He was trying so hard to keep me safe, but I could see the girl wasn't going to let it go. She darted around him, quick as a little fish, and before he could stop her, she grabbed the bottle. My heart pounded as she held me up to the light. Her eyes widened when she saw me. For a moment, she didn't speak. She just stared, her mouth slightly open. She's a mermaid," the girl whispered. "Clara, keep your voice down," Daniel said, rushing to her side. "Give that back." But the girl, Clara, didn't seem to hear him. She brought the bottle closer to her face, her eyes filled with wonder. "She's real," she said. I thought mermaids were just make-believe. I pressed my hands against the glass. Please, I said softly, don't be afraid. I need help getting back to the water. Your brother is helping me. Clara blinked at me, her lips parting in amazement. You talk? Yes, I talk, I said, trying to sound calm. But you mustn't tell anyone I'm here. It's very important. Clara hesitated, then turned to Daniel. If she's a mermaid, she must have magic, right? Clara, stop it, Daniel said, his voice firm. This isn't a game. Just give me the bottle. But Clara's face lit up with excitement, and I could feel trouble coming. If she has magic, she can grant wishes. Clara. Daniel said, but she ignored him. She looked at me with sparkling eyes. I won't tell anyone about you, but you have to give me something first. What do you want? I asked gently. She thought for a moment, then her smile grew even bigger. I want a pair of glass shoes. Like the ones in the stories Mama tells us. Glass shoes? I repeated, confused. Yes. Beautiful ones that sparkle in the sunlight, Clara said, nodding quickly. Clara, stop being ridiculous. Daniel snapped. She can't just make glass shoes appear. But I looked at Clara and saw how serious she was. If granting her this wish would keep her quiet and help me get back to the water, would find a way. I'll do it, I said softly. Clara gasped. Really? You'll give me the shoes? Yes, I said, though I wasn't sure how. But first, I need to get back to the river. Once I'm safe, I will send you your shoes. Deal. Clara said, clutching the bottle tightly. Clara, you're making this harder than it needs to be, Daniel muttered, rubbing his forehead. But Clara ignored him. She placed the bottle carefully back on the table and looked at me with a smile. I'll keep your secret, she said. Just don't forget my shoes. I nodded, relieved that she seemed satisfied for now. But deep inside, I knew this was only the beginning of my troubles. Humans were curious creatures, and Clara's excitement worried me more than I wanted to admit. The next morning, Daniel woke up early. He carefully picked up the bottle where I was hiding and whispered, "We need to leave before my mother wakes up." I nodded from inside the bottle, my fins brushing against the glass. He tucked the bottle under his shirt and quietly stepped out of the house. The sun was just starting to rise, and the village was peaceful. I felt a bit hopeful. Maybe I could get back to the river and swim home. We finally made it to the river. Daniel carefully opened the bottle and placed it in the water so I could swim out. I felt so relieved to be free. Wait. Daniel said. You promised to help me travel abroad. How will you do that? I looked at him. I'll send something to you soon, I said. Thank you for saving me. As I swam away, I didn't know that trouble was waiting for me. Back in the river, I was spotted by the king's guards. They had been searching for me everywhere. When they saw me, they quickly surrounded me. Princess Mariella. Where have you been? One of them asked. Your parents are furious. You're coming with us. I tried to explain, I got lost, but a boy helped me get back to the river. He's not a threat. Please, leave him alone. But they didn't listen. The guards followed the riverbank and found Daniel. Before he could run, they captured him. Let me go. Daniel shouted. I didn't do anything wrong. I swam as fast as I could back to the palace. When I reached my father, I pleaded, Father, please. Daniel didn't harm me. He saved me. You have to let him go. My father's face was stern. No human can know about our kingdom. He must be punished. I was desperate. I didn't know how to convince him. I couldn't let Daniel be punished. He had saved me when he could have turned me over to his people. I had to find a way to save him, no matter what. The next morning, the guards brought Daniel to our palace. He was wrapped in seaweed bonds, struggling to break free. I swam forward, blocking the guards before they could take him into the court. "Let him go!" I shouted, my voice trembling. One of the guards replied, "The king has ordered that he be tried. Humans are forbidden to know about us." "But he didn't come here on purpose." "He's not dangerous," I insisted. Still, the guards dragged him to the throne room, where my father and mother sat on their coral thrones. My father's face was like stone, and my mother looked worried but didn't speak. Daniel was forced to kneel before them. He looked frightened but also angry. "Your Majesty, I didn't mean to cause any trouble," he said bravely. "I just helped Mariella when she was lost. That's all." My father's voice was cold. "Helping or not, you are a human who knows of our existence. That is a crime. You must face the consequences." I swam forward, tears in my eyes. "Father, please. He didn't harm me. He kept me safe. If it weren't for him, I might never have returned home." My father didn't look at me. "The rules are clear, Mariella. No human can leave knowing about us." I felt my heart break. I looked at Daniel, and he gave me a sad smile. "It's okay, Mariella. You tried," he said softly. "But it wasn't okay. I couldn't let this happen." Before anyone could stop me, I swam to the palace storeroom. I grabbed a small bottle filled with a glowing green substance, one of the most powerful poisons in the ocean. I rushed back to the throne room and held the bottle to my lips. "Stop!" I shouted. Everyone froze. "If you punish Daniel, I will drink this. I swear it." My father stood, his face pale. "Mariella, put that down." "No," I said, my voice shaking but firm. "Daniel doesn't deserve this. He should be rewarded, not punished. If you don't let him go, I will drink this poison, and you will lose me forever." The room was silent. My father looked at my mother, who was now crying. The guards stared at me, unsure what to do. Finally, my father sighed. "Let the boy go," he said, his voice heavy. The guards hesitated, but he raised his hand. "Release him now." They untied Daniel, and he floated free. I swam to him, pulling him close. "You're safe now," I whispered. But I wasn't done. "He must be rewarded, too," I said, turning back to my father. "He saved me, and he kept our secret. He deserves gold, diamonds, silver, and a pair of glass shoes for his sister." My father looked at me for a long time. Then he nodded. "So be it." The guards brought out treasures from the royal vault, golden coins, sparkling diamonds, and beautiful silver trinkets. They also gave me a pair of glass shoes, which I handed to Daniel. When the treasures were placed in a shell and brought to the surface, Daniel turned to me. "Thank you, Mariella," he said. "I'll never forget this." "Neither will I said, tears in my eyes. As he was carried to the riverbank by the guards, I watched from the water. His mother and the villagers were waiting there, looking worried. When they saw him, they cried out in relief. Daniel ran to his mother, holding the treasures. "I'll explain everything later," he said, hugging her. "But first, we need to use these to make our lives better." I watched as they disappeared into the village. My heart felt full, knowing that Daniel was safe. Years later, when Daniel had traveled the world and achieved his dreams, years passed like waves rolling endlessly across the ocean. I often thought about Daniel, the boy who saved me and risked everything for my freedom. His kindness stayed with me, a soft glow in my heart, even as I grew into the mermaid I am today. Time changes many things, but it could not dim the memory of Daniel's bravery or the hope that one day, I might see him again. And then, one golden afternoon, as the sun dipped low and cast shimmering patterns on the water, I saw him. At first, I thought it was just a memory, a trick of my mind. But no, it was him. Daniel stood at the edge of the riverbank, tall and strong, his dark hair catching the light, and his smile. Oh, his smile. It was the same as I remembered, only now it held a quiet confidence. I swam closer, my heart fluttering like a school of minnows. He saw me and froze, his eyes wide with recognition. Mariella, he called, his voice deeper but filled with the same warmth. It's me, I said, my voice trembling slightly. You've grown, Daniel. And so have you, he replied, stepping closer to the water. You're beautiful. His words made my cheeks flush, though I wasn't sure if mermaids could blush the same way humans do. I smiled at him, my heart swelling with joy. And you've changed too, I said, studying him. You're no longer the boy I met that day. You've become someone remarkable. He laughed softly, his gaze never leaving mine. I wouldn't be here if it weren't for you, Mariella. The treasures your father gave me helped my family. We sold them, and I was able to travel abroad, study, and build a life. I've done so much, but I've always thought about you. Hearing those words, I felt a warmth I couldn't explain. I've thought about you too, I admitted. I wondered if you were happy, if you still remembered me. How could I forget you, he said, his voice tender. You're unforgettable. For a moment, we just looked at each other, the river flowing gently between us. He crouched down at the edge of the water, his hand reaching toward me. Instinctively, I reached up, our fingers brushing lightly. His touch sent a spark through me, something I had never felt before. But as our eyes met, a question lingered unspoken between us. Could a human and a mermaid ever truly be together? I've missed you, Daniel said softly. And I've missed you, I replied, my voice barely a whisper. Mariella, he said, hesitating. Do you think it's possible? For us? I didn't know how to answer. My heart wanted to say yes, to believe that love could conquer the barriers between our worlds. But the ocean is vast, and the land is firm. How could we bridge that distance? I don't know, Daniel, I said finally, my voice tinged with sadness. Our worlds are so different. But I want to try. He smiled, a glimmer of hope in his eyes. Then we'll find a way, he said. No matter what it takes. I smiled back, feeling a spark of hope too. Perhaps we could write our own story, one that defied the rules of both our worlds. But as the sun dipped below the horizon and the first stars began to appear, I knew our journey was just beginning. So, my dear listeners, this is where I must pause our tale. But don't worry, I'll share more of this story after I've had my coffee. Make sure to subscribe to this channel so you won't miss the next part. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you soon.